Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm Edisham Khan, and I am with Peekage, a digital sampling platform. I want to thank you for joining us on the Fireside Chat, where we discuss different trends in brand marketing. Today, we'll be discussing cosmetic product launches, how to maintain those ever so important relationships with your clients, and then, of course, what's to come for the future. We've been interviewing different leaders throughout the series, and today I am so excited to have Liz Folce with us. She's had the most extraordinary career over 20 years, working for brands such as Bobbi Brown, Origins, just to name a couple. And she is currently the Vice President of Sales and Account Management at Korres. Not only that, but she is an incredible on-air beauty personality, literally broadcasted to millions of homes across 3 different countries every week. I know she'll have so much insight to share with our audience. Liz, how are you today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. This is going to be fun. And feel free, ask me anything.
Love that. We always love when people start with that. So we are going to get right into it. But before we get into some of the questions, let's learn a little bit about you. If you would like to share some of the details around your background for our viewers, that would be great.
Yes. So I'm Liz Folce. I've been around now for a long time. I started behind the counter selling beauty products. Actually, it goes back even further. Let's start back to high school, where I went to a friend's house after school one day, and she had a room that had dressers all around the room. And I thought, whoa, that's strange. There's no bed in here. What's going on? And she said, oh, my mom works for a big beauty company, Lancome, and the dressers are full of makeup. And I thought, oh my goodness, that's what I want to do. I was like, a room that's dedicated, just all the walls were covered in dressers of just beauty products. So that's where the obsession began. My goal in life then was to have a room that had dressers all around it that just was full of beauty products. So I started through college. I started working at the beauty counter at Estee Lauder, where I had the pleasure of actually meeting Estee herself and Leonard Lauder, and really just worked my way up the ranks and got to know them personally, which was amazing. And listening to Estee herself actually speak at our sales meetings as I went through the ranks was amazing. I mean, just to listen to her talk about her selling behind the counter, and it was a lipstick that she created, and she just wanted women to feel beautiful. And I thought, wow, she was so connected. Even as she became bigger in life, she was working behind the counter. She'd even go, even though she didn't have to go behind the counters, she would still go behind the counters and surprise customers all the time, and the salespeople, and they'd be like, oh my goodness, Estee Lauder's here. So worked my way up to becoming a vice president at Estee Lauder. Then they said, Liz, there's a brand that we acquired called Bobbi Brown. Would you meet Bobbi, and would you mind spending some time with her? So she was in LA, spent some time with her, ended up working with her, and it was amazing, and learning more of the artistry side of the business, and traveled around with her for, gosh, I think 4 years, and that was phenomenal. And then Leonard Lauder said to me, so Liz, do you know anything about real estate? And I was like, no. And he said, well, we're opening a store called Origins, and I want you to go find locations. So I want you to go to malls, and I want you to figure out what would be prime real estate. And I thought, oh my gosh, I don't know. I mean, and then he was like, you have to open bank accounts, you need to do security, you need to do all these different things. So it was great because I learned how to take us, from renting a space to hiring employees to, setting alarms to opening bank accounts for a particular store, and really learned how to, plan and lay out a strategy for freestanding stores. So it was kind of cool because I went from working behind the counter to running big department stores, opening Bloomingdale's when it was rolling out on the West Coast, to traveling with Bobbi Brown, to then opening freestanding stores with Origins. And then I met a couple in New York who said, we are selling our products in hardware stores. And I thought, wait, you're selling beauty products in hardware stores? So it was a friend of a friend, and that's how I came to Korres. And I met George and Lena Korres, and yes, they were sold at a hardware store. And I thought, no, that's probably not a good idea. And so we launched at Sephora, and then opened some freestanding stores. And I would say probably 14 years ago, we launched on TV, and our on-air person never made it to the show from New York, was flying down to Florida from New York. And it was actually a Sephora branded show. And the buyer said to me, so Liz, you either go on air or we're going to have to return all of your product.
Oh.
And I thought, okay, I've never done this before. Sure. So I said, mic me, I'm going. Because it was funny because all these other Sephora brands were there. We were all sharing one big room. And they were like, yes, Korres isn't going to go on. We get their airtime. And I was like, no, 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 no. I'm going to do this. So went on air, and now I've been doing it almost 15 years. And we just won, what was it, last week? I think last week we just won Vendor of the Year, which was really exciting. We were probably ranked in the 20s. And now we teeter between number 1 and number 2 brand on TV. So really exciting. Kind of learned everything from retail to freestanding to being broadcast to 100 million homes. And how do you build that connection? Because behind the counter, you get that connection, but then you're on TV. How do you still keep that connection? And so it's been an amazing career. That was a bit long.
No, that was amazing. That was excellent, from where you went at the beauty counter to all the steps that were taken, and all the people that you met along the way. I mean, it's an incredible story. And that's why I'm just so glad that you're here with us. And that takes me right into the first question off the bat. So perfectly laid out. You must have seen so many changes in the last 10, 15, 20 years in beauty and cosmetics. Of course, we at Peekage talked to so many brands, and every brand flat out last year was a game changer. Last year completely turned everything upside down. So from all the changes that you've seen and the observations that you've had last year, what do you think is going to be the biggest challenge for beauty brands in 2021, or what's left of it? And what would you recommend to them?
I would definitely say, we were in an era where, we had customers coming in the store, and I used to go into the stores, and you would mingle with everyone, and, just going to Ulta yesterday, for example, and seeing 5 people in there, and I think there was more salespeople, than there were customers that were in there. And I would definitely, go back to what have you been doing over COVID, and what are you currently doing now to connect with your customer? Because I truly believe that if you have stayed connected with them, her, he, all of them throughout all of this, it should be easy, to be able to say, I'm launching this new mascara on, April 15th. And guys, you need to meet me at, Fifth Avenue in New York. I'm going to be there. We're going to talk about it. We're going to have so much fun. But staying connected is key. And I think staying connected the entire time, and I think throughout 2021, is really important, and be open-minded to listen. I think, one of the things that I would say are a huge key to success is staying in that relationship, no matter what's going on in the world. We've had hurricanes to earthquakes to COVID to this, that, the other. You can always stay connected and be there for your customer. So I think being as one with them and keeping that connection will drive people back into stores.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's so much there. And like you said, there's so much going on in the world, but that doesn't change. You needing to maintain that relationship does not change. And that beautifully brings me to my next question is, when you're a new brand just developing and you want to reach a new audience, what would you say is the best strategy to go about that, to reach your new or target audience and really get to them in this race that we have for new customers going on right now?
Yeah, I would say definitely, and if you're a new brand, you would definitely probably have already done a competitive sort of analysis to kind of figure out what makes, I'll take this pen for example, what makes this so unique and so different. There's a million pens out there. Why do I want to buy yours? And what makes it so different? And if you want all ages to buy this, think about who your target audience is. So maybe this is for a college student, but you know what? Because you don't have to push down the button, and older people prefer not to push the button down, they want it already open. Maybe get rid of that because you're gonna get an older customer. So kind of
Mhm.
take your launch product, understand it, understand your competitive analysis, but then think to yourself, what makes this so great? Why does everyone need this? Why do young people need it? Why do older people need it? Right? So if you can kind of summarize that, that will tell you exactly, you know what, Liz, we're never going to be able to get rid of the button. But you know what, we can add purple stripes and really cool colors. So college students are going to love this, and younger people are going to love it because it's kind of cool and edgy. They're going to want to have it out all the time. So that's who I'm going to go after. You kind of need to take your launch product and understand who is it going to be best suited for, and are you willing to make the changes to that product so that it reaches a vast audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Feedback is key, especially these days when the experience is so important and we're having to pivot and shift the way we do that, of course. And that's another thing brands come to us for all the time is product launches. Product launches have changed so much. And like you mentioned, the beauty retail experience has changed so much. So, what would you say in terms of product launches? Best advice, best practices there?
Yeah. Universal. Make your marketing, make your strategy universal. Don't make it, you know, for one particular person. To kind of do a one size fits all approach so that it actually makes it more fun, I find. That if you can take a product launch and then tease it, on TikTok, maybe to the younger consumer. But you know what? Is grandma going to go on TikTok? Maybe not. But you know what? Grandma's always on Facebook at night. I can tell you that, like always on Facebook, right? So, how am I going to reach her? So, you need to be open minded to be able to reach everyone and decide, you know what? I'm going to make this launch for all ages. And here's how I'm going to do it. But I would definitely say, even for myself, when I'm buying something, it's always from a video. It's always from even a targeted ad. I hate to say it, but you know, that pops up on my computer and says, "Oh my goodness, this is so neat because, you just spray it on and you're like, you look amazing." So you're like, "Wait, I got to search this. Oh, there's videos." So really understanding kind of how far you can reach, but you need to reach them, especially think about if they're not going to go into a store right now, maybe they're not ready to. How are you going to reach them digitally, right?
Yeah.
And how are you going to tease them on that launch?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And these other beauty brands, there's so many brands coming out with AR and VR experiences and so many things. I mean, until we have scratch and sniff and smell-o-vision, something like that, the fragrance brands are kind of at a loss there. But in terms of like smaller brands that know that there's all these technological advances out there and know there's all this data and analytics, but maybe just don't know where to start or what's the best place to put my marketing dollars. There's not always a great strategy in the beginning. What would you recommend in terms of tech strategy and things like that?
I would definitely say social media,
Mm,
because, social media doesn't cost a lot. You can reach a huge audience and it will help you market better, I find, because by getting that feedback and, by putting the content out there, for example, even if you're a new brand and you're kind of testing the waters, I'll give you an example. There was a suitcase brand. I know, bad timing, right? Because we're not traveling. So, and I was talking to this woman who invented this really unique, almost a suitcase, but you could put different items in it. It had all these different pockets in it, and it was great for travel because it almost organized you in the suitcase, right? So you could, right. So I was talking to her and I said, well, this was a new brand. People aren't traveling. So what else? I mean, you're not going to throw away your inventory, right? So how else can you maximize what's happening right now in the world? And I said, maybe what if you were to take the modules out and do it more as a way to organize your bathroom? Because as what, I'm sure men too, we're all disorganized, right? I mean, we
Yeah.
probably have like, my whole, right? The counters are like a hot
True.
mess, right? But what
Yeah.
if you were to take those modules out and test the waters? So she went on Facebook, she asked a bunch of questions and said, okay, I want you guys to help me create my next product. So I've got these modules and, I put different it's sold out. It's sold out like that. But it's kind of like
Wow.
saying, okay, taking a product that you have, and maybe it's a fragrance that you have to smell because, like you said, we don't have smell-o-vision. So how are
Yeah.
you going to get that scent out there? Trying to come up with different ways to describe it, and getting on social and saying, what, maybe you're in a bed of flowers and you're saying, what, I'm in lavender because this is how you're going to feel. It's going to put you to sleep. And give them that experience, and then say, okay, so I'm going to meet you at Sephora at Fifth Avenue. I'm launching on April 15th. So you got to come see this new lavender. You know what I mean? I mean, draw them in, but think outside the box. Don't give up and say, all right, I'm launching this new product and it's over because of COVID and it's just not going to happen. But look, I mean, a woman who had a suitcase, and you would think, all right, well, you're done, right? Nobody's traveling. You can't travel, right?
You
But
couldn't
she
for a
took the
while. Yeah.
modules and was exactly. So it's kind of, thinking outside the box and staying relevant, right?
Yeah.
Because you're not going to say, well, it's a suitcase, so I'm just going to wait till people travel again. It's saying, okay, no, I'm going to give you, and she does all these different videos. It's really funny on how to organize like your bathroom and in the kitchen and in the pantry and all these different things. And she's like, Liz, I think I'm going to just like branch off and do like more organizational things. I'll still do the travel when people start traveling, but at least it gave her another avenue to stay relevant until people pick up a suitcase again,
Of course. And like you said, things are always changing. So I know myself, I'm ready to pick up a suitcase as soon as I get my COVID
Yeah.
shot. I don't know about you.
Yes.
I'm ready to hop on an airplane and I'll be looking at luggage probably pretty soon or around that time. So yeah, it's funny how things go from one extreme to another and consumer behavior changes. And that's something we've talked a lot about during this series, but I'd love to hear from you. There's so much changes in consumer behavior. At the beginning of COVID, we had folks doing masks. At-home masks were super popular. Hair masks were super popular. Makeup sales tried, different things and were affected in different ways. What was the biggest change you saw in consumer behavior, and what do you think will stay and change, and what's for the future?
I definitely would say complexion was definitely down. I would say the lip category definitely down because you're wearing the masks. Um, on the other hand, though, I would say products like bath towels, the Turby towels when you get out of the shower and things like that, candles. In terms of coming back, I actually just saw a report yesterday where lip sales are starting to come back because
Mm.
people are getting the vaccine, so they are able to wear the lip products. So what's great is that in categories where we saw it being a little rough,
Mhm.
people are starting to say, wait, I can do a lip product, I can bring back out my lipsticks that I was going to launch. But definitely I would say complexion and lips has definitely been the softest. Wellness category is through the roof, because people want to create a spa experience at home. The loofahs are through the roof. Bath salts are through the roof. Definitely anything to pamper yourself at home. However, though, I did just see that lip sales are starting to go back up. So that's exciting. I have a friend that's launching a foundation franchise coming up in a few months. And she's like, Liz, oh my gosh, people are finally back to wearing makeup, because, we're doing the Zooms, but you don't have to wear as much makeup because you could just throw on some powder and call it a day. So it's really exciting because I feel like we are in an upswing back to what it was before, where people were like loving going to the beauty stores and buying and trying all the different foundations on the different lip colors. And so it's exciting.
It's really exciting. And just, for myself as well as lots of folks at home, for yourself, maybe even just getting back to normalcy, just feeling normal again. just going through those routines and just like you said, when you see people at the store, that just makes you feel better. When you see more customers than salespeople, I myself, I'm actually have a retail background, and it's funny that you mentioned the Estee Lauder, because I remember my friends and colleagues that used to work for the Lauder companies would often mention, hey, oh my gosh, they were just in a second ago, and oh my gosh, yeah. So I can definitely relate there, and there's so much to that, and having those relationships with your team and with those salespeople, even that, it makes a big difference. It really does. And it's funny that you mentioned, maintaining those relationships through COVID. If you have those relationships, then you should be able to maintain those through COVID. And I feel the same way about maintaining those relationships with your salespeople, with your brand representatives, with all that, just having that structure there. And that's another question, or another thing we talk about with partners all the time at Peekage is, what's the best way to manage, my employees, all of my brand and everything going on like that, and prioritize during this time, because we had a lot of folks that there was layoffs. Let's be frank, there was layoffs across the board. A lot of companies just had to do what they had to do and didn't know what to do, frankly, at a lot of the time. So in terms of the future, what would you recommend to brands in terms of just staying positive, doing what they can, and surviving? Let's put it that way, surviving 2021.
Yeah, I think being understanding and staying connected, I think that, we're not in the corporate mindset anymore. And I think as, even my coworkers, staying positive and staying connected through Zooms and things like that, and FaceTime. But as an employer, not being so demanding. You need to be understanding, because, we are not all in an office. You're going to have a kid screaming, or you're going to have a dog barking and things like that. And, I've seen people get upset, and you have to be understanding. And I think, you want to keep your employees happy, and you want to be understanding at the same time, and you want to be flexible, and I think staying connected and being flexible, it's not, if you keep the mindset that you are in an office from whatever it was, 9 to 6, however your hours were, and you better this and you better that, and not being understanding, I think you're doomed. I think that your business will probably fail, because no one's going to want to work with you. And it's being understanding, because if you are, then you will have such great respect from your employees, and having that time too, by the way. I think making the time, I've noticed that some friends of mine that work for other brands, one of them said, I haven't heard from my boss in 3 weeks.
Wow.
I mean,
wow.
Yeah. So it's like they're already feeling confined, right? We're working at home, and you already have the stress of all of that. And yes, friends are getting laid off, add that stress. So I think as a founder, as an owner, as the business owner, you have to stay connected not only with your customers, and be willing to go in the stores, like you said, and pop in and say hi to everybody and things like that. But you also need to do the same for your employees, and be understanding and be open-minded, and not get upset if a dog barks or a kid yells or whatever. I have a friend whose wife works at home. She's on the second floor. He's on the first floor. They have 2 kids. They're in New York, in a neighborhood where it's very, very strict. They can't get out past their driveway, right? And they're at their wits' end. The last thing they need is to have an employer come down on them and saying, "What is this? Da, da, da. It's 10:05. Why weren't you at your computer?" And da 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 da. So I think we all need to just be a little bit more humble and understanding.
Yeah, I love what you said there, because it is so important, and to feel valued and appreciated. And at the end of the day, I think you said it. People work for people. They don't work for companies. People work for people, and you have to keep that in mind. And it's so important. So thank you for beautifully displaying that. The last question I have really is you are a force. Let's just be honest. I've seen your on-air stuff. I've seen what you've done. Incredible force. And there's a lot of talk of influencers now, and video, on-air personalities, and all those different things going on. A lot of brands, of course, don't have a Liz, don't have a capability like that, and maybe don't have budget to have influencers, things of that nature. Any recommendation you can make there? I know you mentioned social media before, but specifically with having that personality.
Do it yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Oh.
gotta say, a friend of mine that has a brand who is paying, X, Y, and Z for really nothing because that person isn't really connecting with your product. They are doing it on a whim, and you're not going to find somebody that's really passionate about your product, you know, as you are yourself or one of your coworkers, or maybe it's your assistant that's like obsessed with lip glosses and you're like, okay, listen, I need you to do a video. Let's do it together. Let's have fun. There's ways to think outside the box. And I feel like so many new brands, especially, feel like they have to hire, I have to spend this, I have to spend that. I need to, do 30,000 here because I'm going to hire these 10 people. And, when you look at the ROI, your return on your investment at the end of the day, maybe one or two were passionate, but are you really going to get the passion that you would find within yourself or one of your employees or your coworkers? Probably not. But staying connected is the key. Building that relationship is the key. If you think that you are above everyone else and everyone else is down here, it's just never at the end. You are just going to run yourself kind of that like the Titanic. We were just talking earlier. I was talking to someone earlier about the Titanic, and it's like the sinking ship. You're doing it to yourself. Then you're probably in the wrong business. Find something where you don't have to interact with people, you don't have to build a relationship, and you're not passionate about what you do, which is a-okay. Then you go do something else, right? But I think that don't feel like the newest person in the room has the answer.
I like that a lot. That's awesome. That's awesome. And it's funny because I watch, videos online of founders whenever I'm researching a brand or looking at a brand, even for myself, when I want to buy one, they often have videos of the founders, and those videos sometimes are the most influential, to me at least, in terms of how I feel about the brand when they tell a story. I know Korres is all about natural beauty and not having silicones and all that. And that's so important to folks. And hearing that, and that resonates with folks, of course. So that's awesome. I couldn't agree more. Do it yourself. You have the passion. You built this brand. You built a business. You have passion in people working for you, hopefully, so that they'll speak about it passionately. So I think that's an awesome answer and some great advice for brands that are just starting out. And marketing dollars, like we said before, are important. So you can't just throw money at influencers and expect a huge return. Just doesn't happen, does it?
Exactly. Your best assets are your employees. Your best assets are your coworkers, and use them because they're excited or else they wouldn't be working with you, right? And come up and we brainstorm all the time. What can we do better? What can we do different? What's outside the box? Okay, well, I think you should do this. I think instead of saying, okay, we need to hire someone for this and hire someone for that, it's kind of looking within to say, okay, what can we do?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's in the beginning. It's you have to have that attitude. Like there's no such thing as that's not my job or that's not my department. You kind of have to be passionate, and sometimes it's all hands on deck, which last year it was for many of our brands that we're talking to. So yeah, that's great advice. Really appreciate it. I'm sure we could talk about this at so much length. Liz, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. Unfortunately, that is all the time we have on today's episode. Thank you again for joining me at home. Liz, you've been incredible. To our audience at home, we'll continue to have further episodes in this series and then be on to the next series as we develop other topics. Thank you so much, and we really appreciate you. Have a great day, everyone.